A critical confidence vote this Monday night. The fears it could trigger another federal election.
For us to end up in an election campaign, I think will just put Canada backwards.
The U.S. president's U-turn on releasing the Jeffrey Epstein files.
We'll give them everything.
Why Donald Trump has changed his mind now.
Utterly disgraceful.
The pair charged in hundreds of thefts from Ontario mausoleums and cemeteries.
It is among the lowest of the low.
Plus, age-old question, why unlocking the secrets to longevity may lie on this Japanese island.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. It was all on the line in the House of Commons late today. The federal budget and the fate of the Liberal government hung in the balance as MPs held a confidence vote that could have triggered an election. It was a roll call vote. Each MP had to indicate yes or no. And because the Liberals are a few votes shy of a majority, they needed some opposition MPs to vote with them or abstain from voting. Our chief political correspondent, David Akin, was watching it all. David, how close was it in the end?
Well, Donna, listen, you often hear after a day of drama that in the end, it wasn't even close. Well, in this case, in the end, it was mighty close. The Carney Liberals survived the first of what could be several confidence votes that we're going to see in the months ahead by precisely 2 votes.
Yeas pour 170, 170. Nays contre 168, 163.
Je déclare la motion adoptée.
Prime Minister Mark Carney was all smiles as he cast his vote, confident that he had at least one opposition MP on his side, the Green Party's Elizabeth May, who declared late this afternoon that Carney had won her support.
I heard overwhelmingly from my constituents and Canadians from coast to coast that they wanted someone to stop an election happening by accident.
But there was still uncertainty as the vote began shortly before 7 p.m. Eastern. And in the end, it was the abstentions of 2 New Democrats and 2 Conservatives that gave the Liberals the wiggle room they needed.
When the next election comes, whenever that may be, Canadians will hold Mark Carney responsible and to account for his record and for the choices that he made in this budget. But today, New Democrats are choosing stability over political games.
The 7 NDP MPs, who collectively hold the balance of power in this parliament, had been tight-lipped about their intentions ever since the budget was tabled on November the 4th. New Democrats did not like the plan to cut the size of the civil service by tens of thousands, and while 5 New Democrats voted against the budget, 2 abstained. But 2 Conservatives also abstained, Shannon Stubbs and Matt Genereux. Stubbs had been on a medical leave, and Genereux, 10 days ago, said he was resigning his seat, albeit next spring. Voting against the budget, which was essentially voting in favor of an election, all 22 Bloc Québécois MPs, but only 142 of 144 Conservative MPs, despite their leader's assertion Friday that 100% of Conservatives opposed the budget.
The Prime Minister's costly deficit gambles our future on the national credit card, and it drives up food, housing, and tax bills.
Before the vote, the PM had argued his budget was the right one for the times.
Mr. Speaker, job creation is up. Mr. Speaker, ambition and confidence in this country is sky high. We believe in Canada. We are investing in Canada. Yes. Today is the opportunity for every member of this House to join us.
So, David, important to say this doesn't mean the budget itself has passed. There's legislation that still needs to be voted on in future confidence votes, and they could be nail-biters too, right?
Yes, there will be lots more, maybe not as dramatic as this, but there is the actual budget legislation. There are changes to the tax codes, and 4 times a year, every government has to go to Parliament to ask for authority to spend money, and all of those are confidence votes. But this was absolutely the first big one. And clearly, neither the Conservatives, nor the NDP, nor the Greens wanted an election just yet. Donna.
Okay, David Akin, thank you. There are new numbers out about the cost of goods and services in Canada. Inflation dropped to 2.2% in October, down from 2.4% in September. Taria Isri looks at what prices have come down, what's gone up, and what it could mean for the last interest rate announcement of 2025.
When it comes to easing inflation, this was the driving factor.
It was gasoline prices did a lot of the heavy lifting.
Canadians paid nearly 10% less last month than they did a year ago, with global oil prices falling. Shoppers also saw some savings at the grocery store. Food prices dipped 0.6% in October, the largest month-to-month decline since September 2020.
We're starting to see the impact of tariff relief from the retaliatory tariffs that Canadians imposed on the U.S. that ended September 1st.
But grocery costs are still outpacing overall inflation, which is now at 2.2%.
It shows reassuring deceleration. We had that pop in September. It's not a perfect score either. You're seeing still some stickiness in rent in particular.
Some costs wouldn't budge while others went up. Canadians paid more for some everyday items. Cell phone bills jumped nearly 8% year over year. Home insurance rose 6.8%, and auto insurance increased 7.3%.
Vehicle prices had this long trend higher, and when the asset that's being insured it becomes more expensive, the premiums tend to follow afterwards.
And while U.S. trade policy remains unpredictable,
this is the Bank of Canada's last look at pricing data before its final interest rate decision of the year next month.
They've already lowered interest rates to the lower end of their band as to what they consider the neutral rate at 2.25%. So they're going to want to sit there and see.
A wait-and-see approach as a tumultuous year for the Canadian economy draws to a close. Taria Isri, Global News, Montreal.
New data shows progress towards eliminating cervical cancer in Canada has stalled. After decades of steady decline, the Canadian Cancer Society says cervical cancer rates have plateaued and have remained roughly the same since 2005. It raises concerns Canada may not reach its goal of eliminating cervical cancer by 2040. Almost all cases of cervical cancer are caused by the human papillomavirus. The report says the trend is likely driven by increased transmission of HPV, lower vaccination and screening rates, and gaps in follow-up care. In Alberta, the government seems poised to use the notwithstanding clause to defend laws that govern the use of pronouns in schools, female sports, and gender-affirming health care. If applied, it would mark the second time in less than a month that Premier Danielle Smith uses the constitutional clause. In late October, her government invoked the notwithstanding clause to end a 3-week teachers' strike. Morgan Black reports.
A small crowd gathered outside the Alberta legislature Monday. They are concerned Premier Danielle Smith's government will invoke the notwithstanding clause to amend 3 controversial laws. The bills introduced last year include rules around gender-affirming health care, pronoun changes at schools, and women and girls sports. Those gathered here argue these laws will have detrimental impacts on transgender youth and fear the Alberta government will invoke the notwithstanding clause to end court challenges trying to fight the changes. Bill 9 was on the order paper Monday, listed as the Protecting Alberta's Children Statutes Amendment Act, but it was not tabled in the Alberta legislature. Members of Alberta's trans community are urging the province to not use the notwithstanding clause, which allows the government to override charter rights.
We have to come together and recognize that the things that are being changed here are not the things that will make life better for any Albertan. They're going to make life worse for me as a trans person in Alberta.
We have said time and again that we're going to use every single legal and constitutional tool that we have to protect our children. We look at this from the lens of our children, what harm they might suffer.
The province recently invoked the notwithstanding clause to order Alberta teachers back to work and impose a contract on them. Labour groups outside the Alberta legislature Monday say they have concerns the clause will be used again. Morgan Black, Global News.
In the UK, the Labour government intends to make the biggest reforms to the asylum system in decades. The Home Secretary says the system is unfair and broken and that illegal migration has destabilized communities and divided the country. Under the plans, refugee status will become temporary and guaranteed housing support for asylum seekers will end. Vincent McAviney explains what's driving these sweeping changes and why the Prime Minister faces sharp resistance from within his own party.
Just some of the almost 37,000 people who've crossed the English Channel from northern France illegally this year. They've all paid traffickers money to make the perilous journey, crossing one of the world's busiest shipping lanes on these flimsy inflatable rafts. Hailing from countries including Albania, Syria and Eritrea, they've been lured by the traffickers' promises of free government accommodation and benefits. Prime Minister Keir Starmer was elected on a promise of smashing these trafficking gangs. 16 months on, the number of people detected crossing is rising and getting close to the highest annual figure ever, more than 45,000 set in 2022. As a result, Starmer's popularity has plummeted, while that of the Reform Party, a new vehicle for key Brexit proponent Nigel Farage, has skyrocketed. Monday, they tore up the old rules in an attempt to dissuade new arrivals with a host of new measures, including asylum seekers being returned home if their country is deemed safe, or having to wait 20 years to apply to settle permanently, limiting support and accommodation to refugees willing to work or study, and deportations being sped up with limited appeals. The Home Secretary is adamant this is what British people want.
We are open, tolerant and generous. But the public rightly expect that we can determine who enters this country and who must leave.
The next general election won't be until 2029, but Labour learned a decade ago during the Brexit referendum not to underestimate Nigel Farage's skills at using immigration issues to build support. Their conundrum now is how to balance having a more robust system in a country demanding action without turning off their core Liberal voting base. Donna?
All right, Vincent McAviney in London, thanks. France has pledged to sell up to 100 fighter jets to Ukraine, along with advanced air defense systems, drones and munitions. Volodymyr Zelensky was at an airbase near Paris today to sign the agreement, though the planes won't be delivered until 2035. Critics say that timeline isn't fast enough. But French President Emmanuel Macron says that is deliberate to provide Ukraine with lasting support and to spread out the financing, which will come from the EU and from frozen Russian assets. The United Nations Security Council has approved U.S. President Donald Trump's ceasefire plan for Israel and Gaza. The vote means countries can start dedicating funding for reconstruction. Member states can also look to assign troops to an international stabilization force. The U.S. plan calls for a multinational group to help deliver aid and protect civilians in Gaza. It would also be responsible for disarming Hamas. He has gone from yes to no and now yes again. Coming up, why the American president now says he supports releasing all the Jeffrey Epstein files. It's hard to keep up, but President Trump has again changed his mind about the release of the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein's files. He now says House Republicans should vote to release them all. His name is in those files, and his most ardent supporters are demanding everything be revealed. Jackson Prosco reports on the stunning reversal by Trump and what could be behind it.
Dogged by questions about convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, President Donald Trump is suddenly changing his tune and is now backing calls for release of the Epstein files.
I don't care. They can do whatever they want. We'll give them everything.
It's a remarkable turn for a president who has spent months objecting to the release of those same documents while pushing fellow Republicans not to support their release.
So this is a Democrat hoax that never ends.
Now it seems like Trump has little choice. Tuesday, the House of Representatives will vote to compel the government to release the Epstein files. In an embarrassment to Trump, dozens of Republicans are expected to support the measure.
They're using Jeffrey Epstein as a deflection.
Though Trump has not been accused of any wrongdoing, thousands of emails mentioning him were obtained from Epstein's estate just last week.
This is me. This was me. This is me when I met Jeffrey Epstein.
While Epstein's survivors have grown more vocal, releasing a new ad demanding transparency.
It's time to bring the secrets out of the shadows.
With his MAGA base starting to fracture, Trump is trying a new tactic, supporting release of the files only after ordering the Attorney General to investigate links between Epstein and prominent Democrats.
But they were with him all the time. I wasn't at all.
The Attorney General has greenlit that investigation. Legal experts wonder if it's another tactic to keep the full files hidden.
Yeah, I think that's certainly an argument that they would make. The idea being that suddenly these materials are relevant to an ongoing investigation. Disclosing them now could interfere with attempts to bring in new witnesses.
If both the House and Senate approve a bill to release the Epstein files, Trump says he will sign it into law. But Donna, we're still a long way from that happening, and the pressure on the president will likely continue until those files see the light of day.
More to come on that. Jackson Prosco in Washington, thank you. Ahead, grave danger at Toronto's cemeteries and mausoleums, why 2 suspects are facing dozens of charges. In Ontario, dozens of charges have been laid against 2 suspects after hundreds of thefts from graveyards. Police call the crimes deeply disturbing. The thieves targeted cemeteries and mausoleums all over the Greater Toronto area. Karen Lieberman explains the crimes and the precious items stolen from the dead.
8 mausoleums and cemeteries, including this one, allegedly targeted for the mementos and keepsakes left behind, marking the lives of those interred here.
I can only imagine going to visit a loved one and finding out that something cherished, that something belongs to that family, that connection is missing.
Hundreds of bracelets, brooches, necklaces, and other valuables taken by a pair police say posed as grieving family members. Items that were then believed to be resold, melted down, or discarded.
We also discovered the accused had dumped the ashes of loved ones, a reprehensible, disrespectful, and immoral act.
Dozens of charges have been laid against these 2, arrested at a motel in Niagara Falls. And in a vehicle, thousands of dollars worth of stolen property recovered, police add.
Investigators say the pair allegedly used tools to gain access and then steal valuables primarily during the day. They're encouraging families with niches to contact their local funeral home and arrange for a guided niche inspection because police believe there may be more victims.
Like Sarah French of Hamilton, who lost her sister Rachel, a nurse and beloved mother, in 2010.
When somebody dies, you kind of expect that their memory stays pure, and somebody, for the sake of a few bucks, has completely destroyed that.
Rachel's engagement and wedding rings are missing from her mausoleum niche.
It is among the lowest of the low. Do the thieves think that no one's going to care because the victims are deceased?
She's been advised police will be dusting for fingerprints at her sister's final resting place in an effort to lay charges in her case.
It's a terrible criminal offense. Been an officer now for going on 14 years. I've never investigated this type of horrible crime.
Police will now catalog all 600 stolen items in hopes of returning them to affected families. Karen Lieberman, Global News, Oakville, Ontario.
Next, do they know the secret to a longer life? Our Jeff Semple explores the claims in Okinawa, Japan. Living a long and healthy life is what we aim for, and where you were born and where you live can make a big difference. Canada's life expectancy at birth is well above the global average, but other places have an edge on us. They're called blue zones, where people live exceptionally long and healthy lives. Our Jeff Semple visited one of them, Okinawa, Japan, where a Canadian expert is leading the research.
Makoto Suzuki is learning to play the sanshin, a Japanese banjo. The 92-year-old says it keeps him young, and he should know. Suzuki is widely credited with unlocking the secrets to a long life.
Okinawa has a completely top level of the life expectancy in the world.
Suzuki lives in Okinawa, an island in southern Japan. In the 1970s, he launched the world's longest-running longevity study to understand why Okinawans lived longer than anywhere else on Earth.
One of the world's longest life expectancies, especially for women. One of the highest per capita numbers of centenarians in the world.
This Canadian gerontologist moved to Okinawa and joined Suzuki's team 30 years ago. They've interviewed and studied thousands of elderly Okinawans.
And it's mostly about lifestyle. There are genetic factors. Genes are like kind of booster rockets that propel you to these real old ages.
This National Geographic article in 2005 named Okinawa as one of 5 so-called blue zones, regions with unusually long life expectancy.
These people live to 100.
The blue zones have since spawned a massive industry, including a Netflix series, books, and product partnerships. Brian Parker runs a local tour company and says Okinawa has been overrun by tourists.
People from outside of this village coming into people's houses, taking pictures of them in their houses, for God's sake. Realize that this is not a zoo, it's not a theme park.
But Okinawa's longevity industry and reputation are now under threat. This recent British study made headlines by claiming the blue zones were bunk, the result of poor record keeping and residents lying about their age.
Yeah, so we know that already.
Craig Wilcox says those issues are well known and accounted for in their research.
You do have to do a lot of age verification.
Life expectancy in Okinawa has dropped in recent years as locals adopt Western fast food and habits, but its average lifespan remains years longer than Western countries. So what is their secret?
So-called secrets. They're not really secrets, but the basics are the basics. Eat a healthy diet, do your preventive health exams, be surrounded by friends and family.
Most important, says Suzuki, is ikigai, which in Japanese means life worth, a sense of purpose.
People should be contributing to society.
He still works part-time at the hospital and surrounds himself with family and man's best friends. Jeff Sumple, Global News, Okinawa.
Always helps to have a dog. That is Global National for this Monday. I'm Donna Friesen. There's a party in Regina, Saskatchewan tonight. The beloved Rough Riders brought home the Grey Cup. The team hoisted the cup in front of their fans today after coming out on top in yesterday's CFL championship game in Winnipeg against the Montreal Alouettes. Rough Rider fans will get another chance to celebrate tomorrow when the team hosts a full championship parade through the streets of Regina. Way to go, guys. Thanks for watching and hope to see you here again tomorrow. Bye-bye.